There's a place, a school, an institution where a professor resides. One that for the past 30 years has traveled the world teaching others. A pioneer in America of the fighting science of Savate. One who codified the sports of this fighting style. One who has produced clubs, champions, and continues to develop. Listen to words of Professor Buitron.
Hope everybody's doing well. Thank God I am. And I want everybody to take a moment and think about what you were told a saboteur was. I'll tell you why. We're coming into that. But before we get into that, I want to remind you all that at the end of the month, actually the first week, we're less than a month away, first weekend of June, we're going to have the 32nd Passage de Grade. And the 32nd Passage de Grade we're going to have a workshop. We're going to have two great professors coming down, Professor Andre Big Blue Jeremy and Professor Jean-Louis Lassagne. Great individuals. We're going to be having a weekend full of the spectrum of what Savate is. So if you really want to come learn, that'll be the weekend you should be here. You're going to learn stuff for the ring, for the street, different weapons. We're going to have the whole rainbow, if you want to put it that way, of the pedagogy of Dancer Savate. We're going to have some people bring back up that are going for blue gloves, some green gloves, some red gloves, some coaches, some luchadores, and some silver gloves as well. So it's going to be an exciting event, with COVID and everything passing and the pandemic and everybody last year we had a small event, and this year it's getting a little bit bigger. People are coming out and starting working out, and it's probably going to be the last Passage de Grade that we actually hold in the main school, because we're actually trying to move to a new school because we got bigger things that I want to come back into. I want to be pushing more for the ring. We're going to start building an actual team to fight. We're going to start pushing the area into little differences, so I need a bigger space. It's a beautiful school. It's been there for the longest time. It's the first school of Savate here. Things are changing, and we'll take it from that end. So one thing I want you all to remind you of is join Buitron Academy at buymeacoffee.com. Okay. And join the crew. There's plenty of material there. Folks always ask about are the sets on video? They're on video. That's where you can get them. There's learning sets, combination sets. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing. Dramatically, we're going to be doing way too much stuff for us to be placing everything all together. It's going to be a great event. Actually, it's going to be awesome. But for you guys that are learning, come on over. Remember, every second and fourth Sunday of each month, on Sunday, I give a 3.5-hour workshop, especially for those that live on the surrounding cities that want to continue their learning of Savate. You guys can come down here, and those students that are here can also partake in that. All right. So the question is, what is a saboteur? Well, what kind of people are saboteurs? That's a rough question, because Savate, a saboteur, was Savatier, like Professor Sylvain Sylvani used to say. Savatiers come from Savate, saboteurs come from both sunsets. And there's people out there that will argue that existed, but it did exist. You have to live the life of Savate. You have to be in there to understand it. Little nuances were there. Not everything was written down and placed in books like many of these recreationists out there trying to do. But let's talk about what kind of people do Savate. A saboteur is basically a lonely man sport. Okay? It's not a martial art that brings in a community. It's not like capoeira that brings in a community. That you understand what I'm saying? a savateur, people that practice Savat are brought in from a family. A Savateur can bring in his brother, his sister. Later on, they grow up, they'll bring in their boyfriend. So it's always somebody that you know that brings it and brings it in. It's not like Taekwondo that you have a school in every corner throughout the world. Now it's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school in on the corner around the world. And people go there because that's what they want to learn. People come to Savate because they were brought into it, they grew up in it, or they really want to learn how to fight. And that's where it changes a bit. Now, what what kind of people in there? Well, I've met folks from all protection from all professions, and I've also met people that protected individuals. Most of us did. Some of us protected them legally, and some of them ended up becoming protectors of those in the underworld. And but in they were all Savateurs. So that's it's kind of different. They have different vocations that Savateurs end up going into. Some of them end up going into the police. In fact, many of them do. Why? Because you're gonna your training is gonna lead you towards that. It's gonna be a type of a protector, of a watchdog, a band dog. That's why I always use the term band dog. Band dogs are the ones that are left out for them to protect the home front, the outside, like a watchdog, really. The difference between a watchdog and a band dog is a molester type, like like a pit bull type dog, mastiff. Uh, but let me tell you all something. In Savate, many of the practitioners would go into Savate in college. Okay, it was probably a PE course that they had to take. You have to take so many PE courses. So Boxon says sounds pretty good. Lacan sounds pretty good. Let me go try that out. They'll go inside Savate and they'll fall in love with it and continue training. Some people would just take it for a little bit and leave. Others were brought into it as they were kids and they competed and continue going forward. That's how they developed. Um, Here's kind of an off question to that question is there's saboteurs that are meant for the street and there's saboteurs that are meant for the ring and there's saboteurs that are meant to teach. Then there's some that know all three. There's some that can only fight in the ring and can't teach, can't find the street. And you got the guys that can find the street, that can't fight in the ring, and they can't teach. And you have teachers that can't fight neither or. Then you have the exception that can fight in all three. I remember we're all sitting down. I was already a professor. We're all sitting down. Patorel was talking, and there were others who were still there. It was the last time that I saw Professor Michel Gilbert. Was in '94. We were all having dinner. We're all laughing. We're at ASPTT. And somebody asked that question. Mark Olive was the one that asked that question. Mark Olive trained with me, he was my smart partner. We became silver gloves together. And Mark Olive asks, how come you have those three divisions? Are there any two? And I remember Patorel said, the only one that I see now that's getting in this time frame that's becoming professors that is able to go from the three different slots is Paul. And he pointed to me. I remember Claude Valadier laughed and he said, yeah. And he goes, there's others that are great fighters in the ring. Phenomenal fighters in the ring. They're world champions, but they couldn't fight in the street. And there's some that were fighters in the street. They couldn't fight over here. And there's some that could teach them by the person, right? So I don't know if it's a gift or it's just that I've been around everybody and I've paid attention. But there's very few that can travel the three different elements: the street, the ring, and teach. And I guess I was fortunate enough to have great professors, be surrounded with great individuals that cared and passed that on to me. You know, number one, you have to pay attention. That's what I tell everybody. Pay attention when you go to Savate. Look at the small details, you know, because I always say, when the salute, a long time ago, they used to say, what everything that is seen and unseen, and they'll open their hand when they extended it out, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we do that right away you can see it. And there's little subtleties that you won't see it until years later and say, that's what they were doing. Because you weren't ready, or your body wasn't able, or you weren't recognized it, or you hadn't felt it. Then one day it comes to you. You have to take little things and start building the blocks for you to start growing within Savate. I have a lot of people that come in and say, "Oh, teach me lutte parisienne." How can I teach you lutte parisienne if you can barely able to block a jab or a cross? You fumble around with that. There's no way you're going to learn that. How am I going to teach you panache if you can't recognize a punch or a kick, or when actually somebody's going to come at you in a fight? If you cannot recognize that, then panache is useless for you. Because panache was the usages of the articles of clothing, as well as how to start a fight. And people say, no, it's not. It was a discipline. You can argue all you want, but that's what it was for. Lutte Parisienne was a grappling, Parisian grappling. We had 32 techniques from the 32 different neighborhoods that were there at that time frame when it was developed. It's a very devastating art, but it's an art that's to grapple in the street. You know, there's projections, there's cracks, breaking of bones, there's slamming the head, you know, to the ground. So you have to understand that it was a very, very violent art. You know, the world is cruel. Violence is very bad. What you learn in Savate is how to control violence, how to control violent acts. And people don't want to accept that. People always want to say, no, 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 that's not what it's for. That's what it's for. How to control a violent action that's coming upon you or somebody you love, or you see it. And that's when people say, oh, well, you know, so that's the difference. So once more, what type of peoples bring in Savate? The loner that's a free thinker. Then little by little, others are going to come in. Remember, you have to understand that there's clubs. The oldest Savate club right now, the oldest one at one particular time was Real Malmaison. When my professor stopped teaching in 96, it closed. Savate closed. It ended. Boom. They started teaching Thai boxing, other arts. They started mixing it around. So it became something else. The oldest club right now is the Serenus. Okay. That's been around for a very long time. And the ones that opened up that was a professor by the name of Haquin, which was a Savateur that taught many, many coming out of that thing. It's been passed on to different professors. Charlie Charmillon used to teach there. I know the last time I spoke with Dominic Daclouis Papillon, he was teaching there, the Suren. Alan Salomon taught there for a while. So it's a club that's been around for a long time, and it's still open and it's still training. Then probably the next ones probably be Clichy and Bobigny and Saint-Denis probably follow after that. Those are the older clubs. Okay. Then after that, you probably start looking at Lyon with Bob Alex's club in Lyon. Then you go down to Jean-Louis Borg's club in Marseille, and then probably go with Poivre teaching down there. And then those are the older clubs of Savate in France. That's the way that should be in there. So a little bit of little history on the clubs and the ages. You have to also realize that a lot of the clubs had boxe française, and they became kickboxing, boxing, Thai boxing clubs as well. So I'm going to leave you with that. Number one, if you do Savant, start training, start supporting the club. Don't be a YouTube Savateur. Don't be a Facebook Savateur. I love Savat. Don't train. Start training, even if it's for 1 day a week. Pick the day, make the time, start training on that end. Okay? Drag somebody else into the club. Because if you love Savat, bring somebody else in. That's going to fit. Because Savat would weed people out. Natural selection. It'll weed out those that really don't belong. It's sad, but it's true. Other martial arts don't do that. Okay, but Savat will. Because Savat is meticulously boring. But again, it's very aggressive, very exciting for those that get it inside their system. Understand? It's a beautiful art. Once more, I'll leave you with this. Send me those questions. That was a great question, and we'll answer it. If you can make it in June, the first weekend of June, for the 32nd passage of God, please do so. If not, you all stay safe. Be safe. Till next time, much peace.
Today, in America, more than 5.5 million men, women, and children train in a martial art regularly. Buitron Academy has been serving Laredo for over 30 years now. Our adult classes are geared for producing the best in you, teaching you street-ready techniques. With the arts of Savat and Kinpo, you'll learn the traditions of these sciences of combat, as passed down professor to student.
Hello, my name is Jaime Garcia. I started Savat when I was 17 or 18. I'd like to say it was because I was in search of knowledge, but truth be told, I joined Savat because I got my ass kicked in a bar. My mouth was writing checks, my ass couldn't cash cash, so I figured I should learn how to fight. I was looking through the paper, trying to find someone that I could really learn something from, and I came across Buitron's school. Even though it was on the other side of town for me, I wanted to go someplace where I wasn't going to be wasting my time. So I came by. He was nice enough to take me on as a student, and I started learning. I went all the way up until I think it was white glove, pretty consistently. As a matter of fact, I think I even failed one glove because one year I wasn't prepared enough. I believe it was my green glove. So I had to take my green glove twice, but definitely didn't stop me from coming back because that was definitely my fault. But I kept coming back year after year, and I loved it. I had to stop when I was about 25, 26. I had to go to school, I had to go off to college, but I never forgot what I learned here, and I promised myself I would always come back. I just had to get some life stuff done. So I went to school. Savat definitely not only gave me the confidence to do so many other things in my life, but it also got me out of a lot of trouble that I admittedly got myself into. But definitely one of the most important things I ever learned in my life was how to fight. I finally came back. Even though I live in Austin, which is a good 3.5 hours away, I still make the time to come every month to come and learn because it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, one of the best things I ever did. And I believe it gives a person something that the society is very much missing these days, which is a discipline and a drive to go forward, drive to keep doing what you're doing. And I believe in it so much, I'm just waiting for my kids to get old enough to hopefully start doing it themselves. And yeah, best thing I ever did in my life, and I wouldn't change it.
Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Give us a call for your free evaluation at 956-401-4868 or check out our website at Savat.biz. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook.